What if one person's overconfidence, their absolute certainty that they were right, could bring down a 200-year-old financial institution? I want to tell you about a trader, a secret account, and a series of bets that spiraled into a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe. See, this isn't just a story about money. It's about a fundamental flaw in our psychology that affects every single one of us. And understanding it might just save you from your own confidence trap.
All right, let's set the scene. Picture the chaotic trading floor of Singapore's stock exchange. It's loud, it's frantic, and a young, ambitious trader named Nick Leeson is about to make a decision that will quite literally make history. So it all started with a pretty simple mistake. One of his junior traders accidentally sold some contracts instead of buying them, and just like that, Barings Bank was down $40,000. Now to save her job, Leeson decides he's going to hide it. He opens up a secret error account, number 88888, and just tucks the loss away. It was a huge risk, something that should have been caught immediately. But here's the crazy part. Nobody from head office noticed. And that's when Nick's confidence, well, it just exploded. He was convinced he could win it all back.
Now, it's really easy to look at a story like Leeson's and think, wow, what an extreme case. But his story is just a magnified version of a bias we all share, overconfidence. I mean, this same cognitive flaw has been blamed for everything from the sinking of the Titanic to the Chernobyl disaster. But it also shows up in much smaller ways, in our everyday lives.
Think about this for a second. 93% of people believe they are better than average drivers, which is, of course, statistically impossible. We can't all be above average, right? This is just a perfect, everyday example of how our perception of our own skills can be totally out of whack. We just think we know more and that we're better than we actually are.
And this all comes down to a really key idea called calibration. All it means is how well your confidence lines up with your actual accuracy. You know, perfect calibration would mean that if you're 80% confident about something, you'll be right 80% of the time. The problem? Most of us are terribly, terribly calibrated.
Okay, let's try a little test, right here, right now. True or false? Are there more stars in our Milky Way galaxy or more trees on planet Earth? Go ahead, take a guess. And more importantly, how sure are you? You know, when researchers ask people questions just like this one, they don't just get guesses. People often express this extreme certainty. It's a gut feeling, right? They'll say they're 90%, even 100% sure they've got the right answer. But do they?
So you ready for this? The surprising answer is there are an estimated 3 trillion trees on Earth. That absolutely dwarfs the 200 billion or so stars in our galaxy. Our intuition, that powerful feeling of confidence, can be completely and totally wrong.
And this isn't a one-off. Study after study reveals this same consistent gap. What you're seeing here is data from some classic research that shows when people claim to be 90% certain about something, in reality, they're only correct about 75% of the time. There's this built-in confidence gap that we all seem to have.
Okay, so if this is something that gets almost all of us, the million-dollar question is why? Why do our brains get it so wrong? Is it just plain old ego, or is there something deeper, something hardwired into the way we think?
I bet you've seen that meme, right? The one with the Mount Stupid graph for the Dunning-Kruger effect. Well, fun fact, that's not actually what the research shows. The real data is a bit more subtle. It basically shows that the people who are the worst at a task are the most likely to overestimate how good they are. And on the flip side, the top performers often slightly underestimate their skills. It's kind of a double curse. The very skills you need to be good at something are the same skills you need to recognize how bad you are at it.
But, you know, it's not just about knowledge. A huge part of this is just our brain's processing power. Think of it like a computer with limited RAM. Accurately assessing your own abilities is actually a really hard mental task. So overconfidence isn't always about arrogance. Sometimes it's just a sign that your brain is pushing its limits. And this isn't just some abstract theory. It has had real, devastating consequences. Just look at the Challenger disaster back in 1986. The night before the launch, engineers showed management 13 different charts about how the O-rings could fail in cold weather. But the data was a mess, scattered all over the place. No single chart told the whole, clear story. The managers were just overwhelmed by it all. So they defaulted to confidence. They made the call to launch. And 73 seconds later, all 7 crew members were lost.
So, to deal with all this complexity, our brains have developed these mental shortcuts. They're called heuristics. And they're usually super helpful for making quick decisions. But they're also the reason we fall into these systematic errors, these cognitive biases.
And one of the biggest shortcuts our brain uses is called substitution. Check out this classic study. Researchers asked one group of students, "How happy are you?" and then, "How many dates have you had?" No connection. But when they asked another group in the reverse order, dates first, then happiness, suddenly the correlation jumped way up. Why? Because our brains swapped out a really hard question, "How happy am I with my entire life?" for a much easier one, "Hey, how's my dating life going?"
And that brings us right back to Nick Leeson. Now that we have these psychological tools, we can see what was really going on in his head. His overconfidence wasn't just recklessness. It was a perfect storm of bad calibration, cognitive overload, and a brain that was constantly taking shortcuts.
So remember that first $40,000 loss he hid? Well, from there, it just spiraled out of control. It became this vicious cycle of him doubling down. Every loss was just met with an even bigger, riskier bet to try and win it back. The hidden losses just ballooned, from a few million to 30 million to over $260 million. And he just kept telling himself he could fix it, substituting the hard reality with the easier belief that his luck just had to turn.
Leeson's entire strategy, his whole house of cards gamble, was based on one big bet, that the Japanese stock market would keep going up. He was certain. He couldn't see anything that would stop it. And then the unthinkable happened. A massive earthquake hit Kobe, Japan. The market plunged, and Leeson's possessions were completely wiped out.
The final tally was just staggering. In today's money, we're talking about a $2.8 billion loss, more than twice the bank's entire worth. Just 3 days after Nick Leeson fled, Barings Bank, an institution that had funded wars and stood for over 200 years, was declared insolvent. Gone. All because of this one unchecked confidence trap.
So wow, what do we take away from all this? How do we avoid falling into the same kind of trap in our own lives with our own decisions? Well, it all comes down to actively working to get better at calibrating our own confidence.
Okay, so what can you actually do? Well, here are 3 practical habits. First, keep score. Don't just have an opinion, put a number on it. Instead of saying, "I think this will happen," try saying, "I'm 60% sure this will happen." Over time, you'll get a real sense of your own accuracy. Second, embrace what's called intellectual humility. Just remember, the goal isn't to know everything. It's to be really aware of what you don't know. That awareness is like a superpower. And finally, seek out dissent. Don't just put up with different opinions. Make it your mission to find the smartest people who disagree with you and truly try to understand why. It's the fastest way to find the holes in your own thinking.
When you really boil it all down, it comes to this. This is the core takeaway. It's about shifting our mindset from valuing that feeling of being right to valuing the process of getting things right. It means getting comfortable with not knowing and being honest about where the limits of our knowledge really are.
So the next time you feel it, that rush, that feeling of being absolutely 100% certain about something, whether it's a work project, an investment, or just a simple trivia question, maybe just pause for a second and ask yourself this one simple but really powerful question.